Okay, I'm sorry, the mic was kind of hot. I'll switch to my camera in a second, but first I would like to say hello, welcome to my next Q&A session. I don't know if you can watch it live, but if not, I'll leave it on my Patreon, and I wanted to answer some of the questions that you submitted, but also talk more about my tools and what I have been doing recently and about the goods shop and stuff. So today will be kind of a mixed Q&A session, and I'll just switch to my desk camera so we can get to our first theme for today. Okay, so hi, and okay, so I have here a sketch that I'm working on right now. This is actually a revisit of a painting I did recently. You might have seen it on YouTube, and if there's anything wrong with the sound or music or video, just tell me in the chat, by the way. Okay, so here is a sketch that I'm redoing actually. This is based on our visit with Kana to see the Manpei Hotel, to the famous Manpei Hotel, and this is in Karuizawa. So we saw like this interesting store, and I wanted to sketch it, and I did sketch it once on YouTube already during a live session, but I was not really like 100% pleased with the result, so I'm going to do it again. So I already did the sketch, and this will be in the upcoming YouTube video that you can expect in probably a few days on YouTube. But today I would like to talk about my tools again. As you know, I uploaded recently okay, let me switch to the okay, so as you know, I have recently uploaded an article explaining how I'm trying to change my tools, the tools that I usually use for my work, and I'm trying to be more sustainable and choose the tools that I will be using from now on, so they are more long lasting and easily recyclable, and they can be used for a long time without them kind of degrading. So I would like to show you a bit more about this, and talk to you about more about this idea, and show you some examples, and show you some of the tools that I decided to use from now on, and some of the tools that I probably won't use so much. Okay, so let me switch to my first to the camera, and I'll show you my first example. Switch. Okay, so I have been using a lot of materials. I came to Japan about 10 years ago, and I was really surprised about the amount of tools that they have. So I have been buying a lot of stuff. Each time I went to the like art supply store, I would buy some things, and sometimes I would buy things that I know I will use for a long time, but sometimes I would buy things that are not really good, just because I was interested in them. So here I have an example of like pencil sharpeners. So I have been using this kind of pencil sharpener for a long time. I did my animation with this one, and I have been using it really long. But recently I started to search for something that would be better, because I have few things that I don't really like about this this sharpener, and I'll tell you what it is. First is that this is made of plastic, and it's kind of flimsy. I don't know if you can see like this part here. It's really flimsy, and this part should kind of lock here in this back of the pencil sharpener, but after you use it a little bit it just flops like this. And also if you look at the insides of this pencil sharpener, you can see that the this is just like a plastic case for the standard Staedtler pencil sharpener, and actually the blades are proprietary format, so you cannot replace them with a blade from a different company because they have these notches, and they have the notches on both sides, so here and here. So you can only buy, if you can buy, I don't know, I haven't seen any of them, the blades from Staedtler, and you can actually pull this thing out, but from my experience the plastic case does not last so long to actually just justify the replacing of the insides. But the blades are not really good. After a year of two or two of using this, it will actually be kind of dull. So what I would do, I would switch the blades from the color bigger hole here to the smaller one, so I can use it longer. But even with this, it's not a really good pencil sharpener, and this is really popular in Japan. If you go to any like art supply store in Japan, this is the one that's most popular. And we have with Kana, I have 3-4 of them already. So yeah, so this is one, and this is another one that is really popular, and it's like good pencil sharpener. It opens like this, so you can just open it like this, and this part just you can pull it out, and it's not really good because you can often accidentally pull this part out. Let me find a pencil. If you put a pencil inside and you turn it a bit and you pull it out, you can pull it with the plastic part, and there's a lot of like trash coming out. So it's not the best design. And also if you look at this part here, you can see that the blade is kind of a custom shape thing, but also I don't know if I can zoom more here. I can. If you look at the screw here, it's made specially so you cannot replace the blades on this one. So even if you would buy a blade that would fit here, this whole thing is plastic, by the way. If you would buy a blade that would fit here, you cannot replace it because the screw is really like strange one. I managed to like put my own here, because what I usually do, I would put a piece of paper underneath the blade, so the angle is a bit more steep, so I have a bit more longer point of the pencils. So let me try to use it. So it's like this. So it actually cuts really well, but in terms of the design and the materials and its kind of sustainability, it's not really good. The other thing is that if you use it, you can see that the pencil kind of sharpenings kind of gather here, so and they don't go down in the case, so they kind of gather here, so you have to pull this part out and just put them like down and put this back together each time almost. This is also not really good design, so I was compelled kind of to search for something that would be better, and I don't know if I already found it or not, but what I have been doing lately is using a jar like this. So this is a nice glass jar that I have. Actually, I took it from Kana, and I have been using my Olfa, like this knife, which is just a craft knife. It's full metal. You can replace the blades, and the blade, it has two blades. The blade has two sides, so you can swap it when it becomes dull, and you can just slide how much of the blade you want, like this, and you can use it for sharpening the pencil, like this. And actually, I found that I have been using a lot of the electric pencil sharpener, but what I discovered is that if I do a sketch and I have like 3 pencils sharpened beforehand, like this, I can do a whole sketch sharpening this pencil only once or twice on the way. So it kind of allows me to spend more time on drawing, actually. And if I have 2, for example, ready before I start sketching, I can finish a sketch without sharpening on the way. And I discovered that actually the process of sharpening the pencils with the knife gives me a bit of kind of meditation time and thinking time before I even start drawing, and also like in between drawing things. So I kind of like it recently, but of course I recognize the problem that it takes a bit of more time, and when I want to do stuff quickly, I would like to have a nice pencil sharpener that would allow me to just sharpen the pencils quickly and nicely. So recently I bought something like this, which is let me focus, which is the M&R 602 pencil sharpener. Also has 2 holes, one for thinner pencils, one for more thicker ones like color pencils. And I also modified it a little bit, putting a bit of paper here, so the angle of the blade, I modified it a bit, so it produces a bit more longer point than the standard one. And I bought one for Kana also, so that's why I have a I don't know if you can see the letter M here, so we know which one is whose. And this is quite heavy, actually. It's made of brass. It should last for ages. And actually there are a few companies that make blades for this. I was able to buy blades from another German company called Dux, or Do, I don't know. And so this is a second a set of blades that is compatible with this one, so I can swap the blades wherever I want. And also the company M&R also produces blades, so you can buy them on the internet or in some places. It's really nice, actually. So this is what I have been using for a week or something. I also stopped using my electric pencil sharpener. It's a nice point. So I hope that this sharpener and also the knife I have will be tools that will last for some time, and that I'll be able to use for a longer time, and they seem like they will last a lot and they will last a long time. So according to this kind of way of thinking, I was thinking about some other tools that I use usually, and I have been getting rid of things that I don't use, and I started to I started to switch with my tools. So as you have probably seen in the article and in my latest video, this is what I'm using right now. So this is a Kaweco Special ballpoint pen for like taking memos and writing signs and writing addresses on envelopes and stuff like that. And this pen is nice because it uses, it uses the standard Parker type cartridge, so you can put a lot of different cartridges in this. You are not kind of limited to only one company cartridges, and this pen actually writes really nice. I don't know, you can see that. So this is the ball pen. This is my current pencil choice, which is a Caran d'Ache 844 pencil, which is also made of metal entirely and is just a standard 0.7 mechanical pencil, which is really sturdy but light, made of aluminum, and I like it. And here is my Lamy fountain pen, which is the standard Lamy fountain pen, but I don't like the fact that it has the plastic parts here, but the bonus thing is that you can replace the nibs really easily. They come in just like this. I thought that this would be more difficult, but you have actually a nib that looks like this, and you pull the old one and put the new one like on top of the pen, and the swapping process takes less than 30 seconds, I guess. So even if you drop it like I did, or it breaks, or you use it too much and it stops working, you can replace the nib. And actually you can also order parts from Lamy from Germany, because they sell parts also for these pens. And I have here the EF nib, so the extra fine nib for writing. And this is a new thing, because recently I started testing the IndyGraph pen, the one that I already told you about in my previous Q&A sessions and in some of my YouTube videos, but this time I got from the author of the pen, I got this extra fine nib also, which is about 0.3 millimeters, I guess. So this is really fine. Nib with waterproof ink inside. I hope that this pen will be able to kind of replace these felt tip pens that I would use for drawing black lines when I want the line to be waterproof. This is a big problem for me, because I would like to have lines that are waterproof and then I can paint over them with watercolors, but for now I was only able to do that with felt tip pens like this, which you have to throw away every time they run out of ink, and you cannot just put them in a box for a long time, because they age. And actually the pen nib also is not like really long lasting. You can clog it or break it if you are not careful with these. So this is more or less what I'm using right now. As for my, I have also pencils and stuff like this. So According to my rules, I can buy stuff like, for example, a pencil like this, which is Karandash, a new thing that I got. This is a watercolor pencil, not a color pencil. And things like this I can buy because once I start to use them, I will use these up. So there are no like parts left that I have to throw away, and I just use it up entirely. So this is nice, actually. This is okay. But yeah, things like for example, a masking fluid pen, which has a bit of masking fluid in it, and it's actually not so good it's not so good, actually. And this is one of the things that I bought recently that I'm not really happy about, and I kind of regret buying it because it's not so good to use, and also it does not comply with any of the rules that I put for myself recently. But to show you one more thing that I'm happy about, actually, it's this eraser guard kind of thing that makes it a bit easier to hold the eraser. And this is actually interesting thing because this is made by Traveler's Factory, but this is compatible with the standard mono erasers, which are like usually they are white, but I have a black one here. So you can just buy eraser that is really good, actually, but costs, I don't know, about 50 cents. It's the most popular type of erasers in Japan, but you can put it in this kind of protector and it looks cool, and it's also a bit easier to hold and use. Okay, so that's it about my latest development in tools that I usually use. I started to clean out my desk, so my desk is becoming more and more simplistic. Less and less tools are here. Now I just have some pencils, some brushes, and the tools that I showed you here, like a tray with my knife and the pencil eraser, ink that I use for the Tokyo at Night series, measuring tape that I use for adjusting the size of paper, a thing that I can put on my pencil to protect the nib the tip when I go somewhere. And that's basically it. And my jar of pencil shavings. And by the way, I did a small thing to the jar. I put a thing here on the lid, so when I have my knife, after I sharpened the pencil, I can just put the blade here and clean it like this, which is really useful, actually. So I have been kind of half as a way of working and thinking, and half as my recent hobby. I have been kind of changing the direction in which I in which I'm going with my writing and drawing supplies, my tools. And this is the box I'm using right now, which is also metal. Okay, so I would like to talk to you about some other things. Okay, let me switch here. I wanted to talk to you about the DFTBA store. I'm really happy that you answered my poll about stuff. So I know what kind of things you would like to have in the store when it's open. I have been selling my original prints from my house in Japan, but I have been using the Ticktail service, which is, let me put the mic here, which is sadly no longer with us because the service was bought by another company. So I decided to look for a company that would help me develop a new store that would not only sell my prints on a system like, okay, you buy one print and I print it and I send it to you, but also would allow me to sell some more interesting products and also bundles. So for example, to bundle my book with some stickers, for example, or allow me to sell some signed copies of my book that would be easy to order from different parts of the world. Because I'm kind of far from US and Europe, it was difficult for me to make products like stickers and small things like pin badges or something where the postage fee would be really big for any of you that would like to order such a thing later. So I was looking for a store that would support this kind of business way of doing things, and I found the DFTBA store, which gladly, after some negotiations with me, agreed to help me make a store with them and make some products with them, because they not only provide like a storefront, a web page where I can make a store, but also make and design and produce the products from their local companies that they trust and their local ingredients. And they made high quality high quality products that are custom made for each of the creators that collaborates with them. So I wanted to know what kind of things you would like to have on the store. At first I will be able to make some more interesting things. I would like to do watercolor sketchbooks, for example, and things like this require more initial money, so you have to make a lot of them for it to be kind of financially viable. So as the first batch we will try to do something more simple, and I chose some simple but interesting products, and I listed them in the poll. If you haven't yet voted in the poll, it's still open. You can vote for the products you would like to see in the store. And as of now, there are limited edition prints with 37 votes, and this is number one thing that you would like to have. And I'm also really excited about this, because I would like to do short series of prints, for example 50, 150 copies that I would number and I would sign, and then I would send in bulk in one package to the DFTBA store so they can sell it from there. And also, you seem to like the book plus something kind of bundle package, which also is a thing that I would like to do a lot, and I already started negotiating with my publisher and with the DFTBA people to make it happen. But of course, this is only a list of things that I would like to do, but not on everything that I would like to do is possible, so we will see. And the problem with books is of course the physical size of the things. So if I would have to send to the DFTBA warehouse, for example, 200 copies of the book, it's kind of impossible for me. So probably it would be a book plus a signed card plus a sticker set, for example. So that would be something like this. And you seem to like also the sticker set idea and the tote bag, which is great because I have some ideas for both. So I think I'll be starting to design some of the things soon, and you also seem to like ideas for a poster, which is also good. If you have any more ideas for simple things for now that you would like to see in the store, write in the comment below the post that I did with the poll, in which you can vote. And I will be probably sending to Patreon some designs when I have some things done, so you'd be able to have some kind of opinions about the designs if you like it, or you would like it a bit different. But also I will be working with the producers from the DFTBA to make these things really original and interesting. Okay, so that's about this part, and I would like to answer some of your questions. I would like to copy some of this to the chat so you can see. Okay. This is too long. I have to cut it into 2 parts. Okay, so this is the first question from Evening Wang. I hope I pronounced it right. For the Tokyo at Night illustration work, after you finish the lines, do you use Photoshop to plan out the colors, or do you just do it in your head? For the Tokyo at Night series of illustrations, I don't do Photoshop like color roughs, because most of the times I'm working from my own photos that I did during the location hunting sessions. And even though I'm not painting perfectly like the photo is, so I'm not copying the color scheme or everything from the photo directly, I kind of, because of the photos, I have a guideline that helps me to decide the colors, and I don't have to figure out everything from scratch. And also because I'm doing night scenes, it's actually a bit less problematic in some aspects. For example, in day scenes, you have to decide the direction of the shadows, where the light is coming from, what shadows you would like to have. Are there any shadows that are cast by objects outside of the frame that you cannot see, but they cast shadows on the things that you want to paint? So there is a bit more decisions that you have to take when painting things that are like well lit actually. And in night scenes you don't have some of these problems. So yes, you have to decide things like what colors you will use, but it's a bit easier, I think. So there are less decisions on this particular part of painting that you have to take. There are more decisions, like, and the decisions are harder for things like the how do you call it? What do you start with, and what's the next step with the painting, with the layering of paint, because you are layering colors, really intensive colors, and really dark like blacks and stuff like this. So it's easy to make a mistake that you cannot reverse. It's easier to make a mistake that you cannot reverse when you are painting really highly contrasted dark scenes. When you are painting a lightly colored sketch, it's easy to fix some mistakes if you make them, but in night scenes it's really it really requires a lot of concentration. So I kind of base my colors on the photos that I have already. I have few photos for each scene, so I can just have a look at them and switch between them, and then base my color scheme for this scene on those photos. So yeah. Okay, I have next a lot of questions from I hope I'm pronouncing this right, from Jose Ramon Fernandez Lopez or Lupes. So I'll copy one by one. Okay, so first, I see that you are using Mielo or Mijello watercolors, the single pigment ones. Do you like them better than Schmink? Schmink? It's okay if you put your question, no problem. I'll just put them in between the questions that I already have. Okay. So here's the first part of the question that he asks. And yeah, I have been using this set, which I put some cool stickers on. And this is the Mijello set that I got from the Mijello company, actually, when I asked them if I can try their watercolors, and they were so good to send a 26 color set. And I especially said that I was interested in the single pigment set. So all these 26 colors here are single pigment colors, and they are perfect for mixing and for making colors, from mixing like 2 or 3 colors even. And the difference between this set and my usual, let me get this set, is that here I have 60 colors. So this is a set of 60 colors, and it has a lot of colors that are already mixed. So these are already mixes of 2 or 3 pigments, and for my purposes, like painting the scenes that I'm doing for my Tokyo at Night book, the Schminke are good because I already have a lot of colors that I don't have to mix. I can get them really fast, and even in scenes that have a lot of details, even though in scenes that I have a lot of details, I don't have to spend so much time mixing the colors. I can just grab a color from the pan and use it directly on the picture almost. So it's really useful. It was also useful for my comic painting. When I was doing my comic, I could use a lot of pre-mixed colors to paint faster and to have a bit more kind of stability and repeatability in the colors, so I can almost always mix and use the same color. But the Schminke watercolors have downsides. They are expensive. In Japan, they are expensive, and this set is made of a lot of colors that are already mixed. So if you mix them more, they tend to lose their saturation a lot fast. So because I have been trying to change the way I work recently, this is also a thing that I have been thinking about a lot, from this kind of realistic and well detailed style that is this kind of show of skill. So something like the Tokyo at Night series. I would like to change the way that I work a bit more to the concept art, a bit more loose but rich in content style, similar to something that Hayao Miyazaki, for example, does in his watercolor paintings. And for such a style, it's actually better to use paints that are better for mixing and produce more saturated colors and are kind of more vibrant and more saturated, more lively. So yeah, I have been using the Mijello a lot, and I really like them, and probably will be painting a lot more with these paints with this set. Also because they are a lot cheaper than the Schmincke watercolors, and finally I can get them in Japan too, because from like half a year ago they are finally available in Japan. Okay, let me answer the question that is in chat. So from Emily Lindsay, before I go again to the question from Jose. Could you talk about your art journey? How did you study art, and did you start learning perspective or anatomy? So my art journey is not something that you would like to replicate probably, because I started to learn computer sciences, and I was just doing art for my hobby. And because these two categories kind of started to melt together when I started to paint on the computer, and I started to use the graphic tablets to paint on the computer, I was able to kind of mix my knowledge from the computer sciences with my art hobby kind of thing. So I was actually able to start to make a bit of money with my art when I started to work with the Wacom people, so the people that make the Wacom tablets. I was presenting and their products and teaching people how to use their products on fairs and events and stuff like this. So then I started to think that actually maybe I will be able to use my art as a mean to support myself and to actually work in the art business, but that actually was kind of impossible to do in Poland at that time, especially with the things that I wanted to do, so manga or animations. So I started to look around for any opportunities to work in this and study more in this kind of category. So when I discovered that the Japanese government was offering scholarships for to go to Japan and learn there, I applied and got in. I was so lucky to get into this scholarships program. So I was able to study in Japan, but most of the practical skills like doing perspective or drawing characters or painting backgrounds I learned by myself, by analyzing other people's art and works, because when I went to Japan I was already into the graduate degree, so there was no teaching us how to paint or draw, because that was we were already we were supposed to already be able to do. So it was more kind of theoretical things about story making and things like that. So most of the skills that I learned about how to actually draw and paint stuff, I learned by myself, just by kind of reverse engineering other people's works. And I talk about this more in one of my YouTube videos about my favorite books, so you can go there and check what actually I used for as learning material. But mostly it's just analyzing my own work in this kind of closed loop system in which I learn a bit and then from other people's work, and then I look at my work and try to see what I can do better, and then try to do this part better, in which process I kind of learn a bit, and then I start to look critically at my work again. So this is this kind of closed loop process in which I study other people's art. With this I learn what I should do better in my art and what I should study and what I should focus on more. I hope this answers your question, but my kind of art journey is a bit weird actually. Okay, so next question from Jose. Let me see, it just came in. Okay, so he has a two questions here. Or three questions almost. Okay, so the first one is, Holbein watercolor is a brand of great prestige in Europe. Really, I have not tried it, but it seems very expensive for the 5 ml tubes. And I have to say that Holbein as a Japanese brand is the most popular and standard brand of watercolors in Japan, and it's actually cheap in Japan. It's cheaper than Schminke, and it's cheaper than Mijello probably. So I have been using Holbein from the start. When I started to use watercolors here in Japan, I have now this watercolor set, which is the Holbein paints, and I have to say that they are well balanced paints of good quality. I learned kind of to appreciate them after I used Schminke and Mijello for some time, because actually there's nothing wrong with Holbein, but also they are a bit dull, not color wise, because they are nice saturated and they are good quality, but there's not much excitement in them. There's nothing much exciting about these paints. In brands like Schmink, for example, you have the limited editions, or like nicely granulating colors and few colors of I don't know, ultramarine or whatever that you can choose from, and you kind of feel that you are buying something exclusive when you buy Schminke paints, for example, but not so much when you are buying Holbein. This is just my opinion, but about the quality of these paints, they are really good actually. So if you have in your country a brand that is more exciting than Schmink, than Holbein, and it's less expensive, then go for that. In Japan, I would actually recommend Holbein because it's a good brand for a good price. But if it's really expensive in your country, I don't know if there's anything that special about this brand that you have to have them. If you're, for example, I don't know, in France, you could buy the honey based Sennelier, for example, if they are less expensive than Holbein, buy them. But if you are in US and you can buy like M. Graham paints, which are really good, and if they are less expensive than Holbein, buy them. In Japan, Holbein is less expensive. Okay, so, and there's a next part to this question, and this is about the Saunders brand, which is I think it's just part of Holbein. If you see that the watercolor paper that I usually use for my watercolor paintings, it's the Saunders Waterford, and it's sold by Holbein in Japan. So this is actually English watercolor paper, and that is made into these blocks and other, what the hell is like a bug, that is made in into these blocks and other sketchbooks by Holbein in Japan. But the paper is made, it's the Saunders Waterford paper, and it's an English brand paper. So this is like this collaboration kind of thing that is going on here. And one more question. The second question is about the term gansai in the watercolors. What is this gansai thing? Gansai. 岩彩の水彩ってどういうことなんですかね。そうですよね。でもなんか岩彩丹美っていうあるんだよね。岩彩なんか日本の水彩だと岩彩丹美って言われてるんだけど、なんかちょっとなんか普通の水彩と違う。そうね。で、うん。そうだよね。違うかもね。This is a thing that I'm really not sure about, but from what I know and what I have tested, in Japan you have these traditional Japanese watercolors that are called gansai or gansai tambi watercolors, and they are watercolors because they are transparent and they are used with water, so they are soluble in water and are really similar to watercolors. But there are differences. These watercolors are made with pigments, which is ganryo in Japanese, are made with pigments also, but they are made with pigments that are used by traditional Japanese Nihonga style of painting. And in this style of painting, you actually made the paint by yourself. So you buy the pigments, you buy the powders, you buy the glue, you have to heat it up, you have to mix it, and then you can start painting. And these watercolors, the Gansai watercolors, are kind of an attempt to simulate these colors and these paints in watercolor form. So the pigments are more coarse and more, how do you call it? They are a bit differently made. So the proportions of the binder and the pigments are different. They are more smooth. They are more milky.
Okay. I know. 岩彩とは顔料ににわか、でんぷんとかそういうのを混ぜて伸ばしたものを容器に入れたものだからパン、ハーフパンとかパンあるじゃん、あれに入れたものは岩彩。
なるほど。
その中に入ってるピグメントはピグメントイコール顔料。
そうだね。
それを混ぜ混ぜしてパン的なものに入れたものは岩彩。
And I have been using a bit. I got a test set of the Gansai Tambi made by Kuretake, which is probably the most popular type that you can buy in Japan. And I have to say that they are a lot different than your standard good quality artist watercolors. It's hard to get some colors because of the pigment, which is different type than your standard watercolors. Some colors are more intensive than other. The balance is really hard to achieve. And also differently than watercolors, some pigments used in the Gansai Tambi watercolors, Japanese watercolors, have a shine to them. In the traditional Japanese painting, from what I know, the pigment is more coarse, but also it is a nice thing to have a pigment that is visible. So if you touch the Japanese Nihonga painting, they often are just like sandpaper. It's the pigment is really coarse and it shines. It has particles. It has shining particles on purpose, mixed also. So in the Gansai watercolors, some of the colors are shiny, so some of the colors are, when dry, if you look at them in some angle, they're like shiny, and something like a pencil, for example, a graphite, that you, if you look it on some at some angle, it reflects the light. So they are really different than your standard watercolors. And from Kana is saying here, it's in Japanese the word ganryo is pigment, so powder pigment, but gansai is the pigment mixture, so the pigment and binder and something to make it more opaque, then poured into the pan or half pan. So the pans or half pans are also in the Japanese watercolors are also bigger, so you can think that you are getting more watercolors for the same amount of money, but they are also more shallow because they are made for bigger brushes. The Japanese style of painting, so the Nihonga painting, is painted with bigger brushes, with larger strokes, and you paint larger pieces, so you have bigger pans of watercolors, but they are kind of shallow, so the amount of watercolor is also kind of similar. And that's it. That's what I know mostly. I had a small set that you can use for testing, a 12 color set that is not so expensive. So if you are kind of interested in using these watercolors, you can buy them online. A small set like this is not expensive, so you can test them by yourself. It was a kind of interesting experiment, but I wouldn't use it for my regular watercolor painting. Yes. Okay, so if you have any other questions, I think I got from into most of the questions that I have here. Okay, so one more that I have here on the list is from Abe Levy, and it's this question. I will split it in two because it's too long. Okay, so he asks, I also would like to know any tricks on how to avoid paper buckling and how to correct if it happens. And I am using 300 grams watercolor paper for all my paintings. Most of the times I'm using this paper, but also paper made by Canson or other makers, and I stick it with masking tape to a wooden board before I start painting. And because in my style of painting I'm not using so much water, I'm using a bit but not so much, I have almost no problems with buckling paper. Only in bigger areas, like huge areas of sky, for example, I have a bit of buckling, but it's not so much that I'm worried about it. But if you are worried about it, you can stretch your paper before you start painting, and there are two ways that you can do that. You can just wet the paper from both sides, put it on the wooden board, tape it with a special tape that has no glue on it, and just leave it so it dries slowly, and then the paper will be kind of stretched, so when you wet it again, it will not warp so much. It will warp a bit. And you can see a lot of videos on YouTube of people explaining exactly how to do this. The second method that you can use is the method that animation background artists use for doing their art, which is actually wetting the paper again from both sides, so it's completely kind of wet through, and putting it on a board, not taping it on the edges, and then when the paper starts to slowly dry and it's kind of half wet, so the paint still, when you put some paint on it, it will still kind of spread. Then you start painting wet on this paper, which is still kind of wet, and this gives you this really nice effect of every edge being kind of soft and everything being soft. I can show you where do I have it here. In the Oga Kazuo-san, so in the Studio Ghibli background director's book, I'll switch the camera. He actually shows how he does this in the part in which he explains how he paints. So he actually wets the paper through the first step. I don't know if you can see it well. Let me zoom in a bit and make it darker. So he first wets the paper through with a big brush, and he wets it on both sides. So if you put it on the desk, it goes like flump, and it's just really wet. And then when he starts painting on this wet paper, the paint kind of gets blurred, so all the lines, all the washes get kind of blurred, so he gets this kind of really blurry and dreamy kind of effect. And then because he uses opaque paint, something similar to gouache, he can add details on top of this. And you can also use this technique with watercolors. In some of my work, when I wanted to achieve like really dreamy and washed out sky or background, you can wet the whole paper through and then paint some things wet on wet, really light. Sorry. Dziękuję. Really light, and then leave the paper to dry completely for like half an hour or something, and go back to it when it's completely dry, and start using just sharp, nice washes and add details. So these are like two ways to prevent the paper from buckling. And when the paper is dry, you can tape it on all sides. Also, if you are kind of lazy, you can use blocks like this. Blocks like this, which are just glued on all sides. So, which are just glued on all sides. So here, all the edges are glued. So when you start painting here, even if you are using a kind of moderate amount of water, it should not buckle so much. And then you can just stick your knife here and free the sheet of paper. Okay. I don't know if you have old sketchbooks, but if you do, can you do a sketchbook tour? I have started to doing sketches. I'm a person who does not do sketches so much, and this is a bad thing. This is a bad thing that for me, mostly because when I just do a sketch of my idea and it's a rough sketch, I feel kind of disappointed about the quality of the sketch, so it kind of because I get disappointed with the result, I don't want to sketch anymore. So most of the time when I do sketches, they look more or less like this thing here. which is for my for the next thing I'll be doing. So when I have something in mind, when I need to do a comic or when I need to do a painting, I will start with sketches like these here. But I rarely just take my sketchbook and do some like sketching only for the sketching part of it. So I rarely do just sketching for sketching. So recently I have started to fill in this MD paper sketchbook that you have seen on my live sessions, and I really like this style. Yes, it kind of discourages me. So if I have a fantastic idea in my head, which is like this fantasy world of whatever, and it's perfect, if I start sketching it, of course I'm not used to this, to drawing things like this. So when I start sketching it kind of does not answer and does not represent the things that I would like to have on paper. So I know that the perfect thing would be to do a sketch and then fix it and make it better and make a next sketch and make a next sketch and then develop something that's beautiful and perfect in every way. But for me, it kind of discourages me from doing more stuff. So this is one of the things that I want to fight with, a bad thing about my way of working. So that's why I started to do this these sketches here. For now I'm doing things that I feel comfortable with, so buildings and stuff like this, and you can download this if you are the $5 tier. You can download the PDF of this, and if you are not, you can watch as I paint it live on YouTube, and it's still there. So I try to do these sketches, and actually I feel that with stuff like this, when I finish even a simple sketch like this, I kind of feel encouraged because it looks like something. So I will be doing more these, and at some point maybe I'll do a sketchbook tour. I did upload some sketches in a PDF form recently in Patreon. You can look it up, but mostly my sketches are really rough and they look something like this, which are like really rough character sketches, or really rough like scenes, which are so rough that they are like exploration of ideas but not much to show actually. So most of the times I don't show these, so like ideas like this, or like sketches like character sketches or sketches of my character. But most of the times I sketch mostly when I have something to do. So for example, here I had my Tokyo Storefront book. I wanted to draw some characters of me and Kana to for the book, and I didn't have Kana's character, and I also wanted to develop my character a bit without the glasses. So I wanted to do some test sketches of us both. So this is most of the times I do something like this, is I have a clear goal in mind. So different to artists like, I don't know, Heikara, that just do sketches every day to train their how do you call it, art muscles. I rarely do just sketches for sketching sake. So for example, here I have a next project to the Carolina animation, so I do sketches for the Carolina character. So these are really rare. So these are like just sketches that I did for sketching. So yeah, mostly it's stuff like this. So sometimes you have like like bigger scenes. This is really old actually, but I really do sketches like for sketching sake, and this is something I would like to change. So I guess I'll be doing more sketching live streaming, because this also helps me to kind of concentrate in and get into the mindset of actually sketching and doing stuff, because I'm doing kind of two things at once. So I'm doing a sketch, I'm filling my sketchbook, but I also am doing something for the YouTube, so it kind of makes me feel better and more motivated. And I have a lot of sketchbooks actually. I have this one which is nice. It has really thin paper and it's good for general purpose sketching. I have been using this MD paper sketchbook recently, which you have seen in the live streams, which is great. This has really nice cotton paper, great for pencils. Great for pencils. I have this bigger sketchbook, which is the Mnemosyne series of sketchbooks, which is really nice. Has more kind of slick paper, which is also good for pencils, but also for pens and for some mixed media things, even though it's kind of thin. So here you can see I have a lot of like early character designs for Yuragi and some like sketches like this. So even though the paper is kind of thin, it's really sturdy. You can also put a bit of watercolors on top of this, and it holds. And for smaller things, where is it? Yeah, I have been using this Canson one. It has a clip here, but I always take it away because it annoys me. And this is a bit thicker paper, mixed media thing, and I have been using this for mixing watercolors with pens and some pencil sketches, ink sketches on location, because it's nice and small, but also things like pictures for my articles. And also there's a smaller version of the Maruman one, which is nice for just taking with you somewhere and doing some like character sketching and ideas with pencils, whatever. But mostly my sketches look like this, so they are more like chaos, just to figure out things, and they are not like finished pieces. And lately I have been using, I have some new sketchbooks that I would like to use soon. I have the daily sketch book from the Touch and Flow company, which is really nice. And this is the MD paper, so good for pens and sketching. I have a bigger version, which is also really nice, and this one lies flat, so I would like to use it soon. And I got one also from the MD paper people that has dots. I don't know if you can see it, but this one has dot pattern, and this is perfect for planning comics, because you can put like pages and nice frames and have the same size of every page in the same place, so it's then really easy to scan and edit on the computer. So I will use this probably for planning my next comic. So there you have it. This is like a quick tour of my sketchbooks and what I'm not using right now because I don't sketch so much, and mostly if I have some free time, I right now I'm trying to focus on putting more text into my book, or making the next Tokyo at Night illustration if I have some free time. But I recognize that this is one of my creative kind of weaknesses, so I would like to put more attention and more time into doing sketches and filling these sketchbooks up with my new pencils and stuff. Okay, so that's it. I think if you have any other questions, I will be doing this again next month. Maybe next month we'll be able to do a live sketching or painting session if you want. If you have anything you would like me, for example, to sketch or explain, like in this kind of sketching form on the camera, it's also okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them on the Patreon. You can also send me an email and I'll add you to the list. I'll add you to the list of questions. Okay. Also thank Kana for searching for the Gansai information and answering some questions. Have a look at her YouTube, because we added subtitles to her video in which she explains how she's making her animations. So if you want to know how to make loop animations in Photoshop, you can have a look at her YouTube account also. Okay, so thank you for joining us today, and I will see you in the next Q&A. And also thank you for answering my Patreon polls. If you haven't voted yet in the poll, please vote, and I'll make my best to make nice products for you in the DFTBA store. Yes, I'm stressed because the Tokyo at Night book deadline is coming, and it's in a month and a half, and I still have to paint some illustrations. But if I follow my own timeline and schedule, I should be okay. So yeah, have your fingers crossed for me also, and I should be okay. Okay, I also finished one big commission, so I'm kind of finished this one, and I'll also be able to show it to you when it's published later this year. So you can look forward to this too. Okay, have a great day. I will see you in the next Q&A, and if you have any questions, just write me an email or a comment and I'll certainly see it. Okay, thank you for joining me today. Bye. See you in the next one.